Hey y'all. So got a different matchup for y'all today. It's Iyslander versus Axe's Dori. So yeah, let's get into it. Opponent won the die roll and chose to go first. And they start by doing a dominate thing in the Axis. So that's really rude. So we're against Dori, so we've sided in all our D-reacts and the Oasises as well. Well, I was expecting Dawnblade Dori, but then my opponent flipped up axes, and to be honest, I was very confused when I saw that. Wasn't entirely sure how to approach the matchup, and I figured I'd just just play it by ear kind of thing, like see how my opponent's playing, and like basically base off of that. My opponent's playing slow. I'll try and do the frost tech stuff, which since I have all these D reacts in, I already have the ability to do. But my opponent is playing a little faster, then I'll just do like the standard like tempo stuff. So his opponent coming with that axe, it was coming for 4 with no go again though, so I chose not to block it in case they have a glint or something. And I have the sink in hand anyway to like stop some damage, and I can only block a 1 card anyway, so it's like the sink is the most damage I can block. So we still take 3 because of the dominate, and then we get to R10. We hold on to our red because that's like, you want to be able to send a red if you're going second. And out of these cards, my opponent has AB3, so the thing I want to arsenal the most is a Polar Blast. The blue Ice Vein isn't going to do much. It sort of forces a blue out of their hand, which is not insignificant, I guess. But Dori has enough blues where I think I prefer the Polar Blast. Alright, so opponent just snaps, says no blocks on the Hail, including the Moon. And that is sort of giving me a bit of information of how my opponent wants to play this game. And so I know that I'm unlikely to try and do the Frostex game plan at this point. Right, and then we draw into this hand, which is all blues, so this is the sort of hand where you just want to block out. They all block 3, so that's very nice. You just want to block out, or, maybe you keep 1 extra card to like Coronet Peak. Yeah, and out of these cards, the one I want to arsenal the most is the Aether Hail. If I had Tunic up, I'd be okay arsenaling the Ice Bolt, but I don't, so, we'll be arsenaling the Aether Hail here. Although there's a chance a Polar Blast draws us into a red, so, we definitely do that first before deciding our blocks. It doesn't draw us into a Brain Freeze. Brain Freeze in this matchup, here's where I started looking at my opponent's cards. I think Brain Freeze is a matchup, like, it potentially hits something. They do have, like, a bunch of hidden runs, which are, like, cost 0, and, like, Iron Song Response and stuff. But it's not as reliable as it is against, like, Briar or Fi, so it's not a high priority thing that I really want to prioritize. So our opponent just swings the axe, and classic rule against Dori, you don't block the sort of unbuffed, ungo again axe because of the glint. Of course, since it's axes, they're probably also running blade runners and stuff, so it's a bit hard. Like you're sort of committing to like always taking 2 on the first axe. But that's still fine because usually in Axe's Dori, most of the damage is on the second axe, because if it's like Blade Runner or whatever, and the axe itself gets buffed, if it's followed up from an axe hit, so like from an axe attack. So most of the damage is on the second axe anyway, so I know I'm still gonna get an opportunity to save some life by blocking. So I don't lose too much by just saying no blocks on the first axe. And then yes, our opponent does, play the glint, so we're very glad to have played around that. Also, they took the full 3 from our Waning Moon. Yeah. Okay, and then we go ahead and take 2. The Dori triggers on that first axe. Okay, and then they play Hit and Run, and that's pretty rough. But yeah, this is what I mean by most of the damage is on the second axe, right? So now this axe is coming in for 6. And like I can block this fine. I mean, it already has go again from Hit and Run. It's like, so if they have another glint, it's like, not super useful. Yeah. And they shouldn't have any floating, because of the frostbite. Yeah, so let's go ahead and block 6 on this. Like I said, this hand is just a blockout hand. Currently still have 1 card, like the Brain Freeze, to like pitch to what's it called? Coronet Peak. Yeah, and then opponent does the Alpha Blood coming in for 3. And since that axe had go again from the Hit and Run, this next axe is coming in for 4, I believe, because of the Alpha Blood and its own effect. Yep. And then go ahead and block it, since my opponent already gave up the arsenal. And cards in Dori aren't exactly worth like cards in Briar are like kind of always worth like 4 damage, so I Coronet Peak, I block more that way. But Dori less so. It feels like in Dori most cards block for like just pump 3. So I was okay just blocking the Brain Freeze instead of doing a Coronet Peak on my turn. That could have been wrong because it might have messed up like my opponent's just math and being able to play around a Frostbite and being able to swing with the second axe. But yeah, okay. Then opponent starts with Warrior's Valor, and we'll just give them a Frostbite here. It's also, we just get information from them, like based on how they block, because we're setting 5 damage on their turn, and giving them a Frostbite. So just the way the blocks arcane damage gives me potentially gives me information. Okay, so my opponent blocks just 1 on the hail, and then yeah, and then Waning Moon. I guess, I mean, they have Tunic up, so that's also something that we have to consider when we're trying to decide like what opponent's trying to do. They take all 3 of the Waning Moon, so yeah. And then we let the Warrior's Valor resolve, and they pitch another blue to swing with that axe, which is coming in for 5 with go again only if it hits. And we have 2 D-reacts, and Hypothermia is just insanely powerful into Dori, because like none of this stuff has natural go again. So what I'm looking to do is honestly, like, I'm okay just using both my D-reacts here. It also plays around a pump. And I expect that my opponent would Arsenal their last card, and they might have a 5-card hand going to the next turn, but I have a Hypothermia to like stop the first axe, which is usually like just the 2 damage one. So I feel fine giving them a 5-card hand when I'm setting up a Hypothermia. Of course, one option I had here was to just let this axe hit, and then just use a D-react on the second axe. Yeah, but that's how I just want to stop the go again, like right now, and just don't leak anything. And I know I'm probably going to not leak anything on next turn as well, with Hypothermia. But we get blown out because our opponent plays a Blade Runner, which was something I definitely wasn't expecting. I was expecting them to rely on the Warrior's Valor on hit to get go again, but then they Blade Runner, and then now this next axe is coming in for 5, and there's nothing we can do about it. So I probably should have just let the first axe hit, given them only had 1 card remaining, and they had, yeah, given them only had 1 card remaining, I was like, okay. Probably would have made sense to just let it hit. So that was a mistake from us, but anyway, we get to Arsenal Hypothermia. So Freezing Point is still in, like, I brought this Freezing Point in because against the Dawnblade Dori, I'm okay doing the Frost-Axe game plan. Well, I guess against Dori in general, actually, since I do bring all the D-reacts, I do want to make sure I have the tools for a Frost-Axe game plan if my opponent plays that way. But in this case, the way this game is going, it doesn't look likely, so I will... the Freezing Point is just like arcane damage. Alright, so first axe, again, unbuffed. So, oh, but because we have the Hypothermia, I'm okay blocking. Because I don't care about playing around a glint or anything, because like they can draw the extra card, but you know, I'm gonna end their turn anyway. So this is like the rare occasion I'm okay blocking the unbuffed axe. Okay, and then play a red Blade Runner, and I'm very happy to see that, like the red one particularly. I'm just like blowing them out with the Hypothermia. And that's the sort of that's the tough thing for Dori in this matchup. It's honestly very interesting. It like normally Dori is the one that puts their opponent on like the ooh, like what am I supposed to play around? How do I block this? But in this matchup, it feels a little flipped because every time I send a red thing on to my opponent on my turn, it's like they need to worry about that if they don't block enough of it and they get blown out on their turn with like a Hypothermia or Channel Lake Frigid, then they've just lost a lot of value. But at the same time, if they, you know, just block a lot, and I just send an arcane damage at them on their turn, then they don't have enough to like block that arcane damage. Or even they don't have enough to just send damage at me. So it's a very interesting dynamic, this matchup. Anyway, so we Hypothermia and the turn ends here. So that's like a lot of value. Like opponent has an extra card in hand and their Blade Run was completely wasted. So you could think of like a Hypothermia just giving us 2 cards from our opponent on a 0 cost. So that is incredibly strong. Alright, so go ahead and Freezing Point. No point fusing this because like it won't deal extra damage. It will just give our opponent information. Okay, opponent blocks 3 of it, and when they pitch a blue, when they like snap pitch a blue like that, you sort of can tell that they probably have, you know, enough blues on their turn. So That's just a little read you can make. Cool. So again, okay, so unbuffed axe, we don't block this. We also have the D-react, which is really good. Okay, it's another glint, so we've played around another one, so that feels really good. And oh yeah, so at this point, I will we've drawn into Frost Axe, and I'm wondering whether I want to set it up. That's something I'm thinking about as my opponent plays out their turn. Although just like I said, based on how the game has been going, I'm sort of comfortable with this life difference. And so I don't, and also note I haven't found like my powerful red things yet. I haven't found my fighting spirits or my red ice veins yet. So this life total, I'm kind of comfortable just like maintaining this, and I currently don't feel the need to play this Frost Eggs. Also, it does feel like opponents opting to play more aggressively than defensively, despite them having AB3. So that's another thing that I'm thinking about when I'm deciding about whether I need to play this Frost Eggs. Okay, and then they send this Hatchet. This is coming in for 4 because that's a blue hit and run. And then over here, I decide to give them the Frostbite when they only have 1 floating. Just to see like what they... Actually, this doesn't really give us information because they have the Tunic up. So like if they had a 1-cost reaction, for example, they can just still wait till the reaction step, use their 1 floating to activate the Tunic, and break the Frostbite then. So I actually don't get information giving them this Frostbite here. And there's no 2-cost attack react that they play, so the Frostbite isn't stopping too much. But anyway, we go ahead and sink this because like it's just a clean block for 4. Okay, and now opponent pays 1 for the Iron Song. And remember that axe had go again from the hit and run, so they can use Tunic to attack with the other axe. And that is coming in for another 3. And so if that axe wasn't coming in for another 3, I probably would have... Like, if that axe wasn't coming in, I would have set up the Frost Axe. But since my opponent is sort of presenting this much damage, I don't think I want to go to 14 and also just set up a Frost Axe and give my opponent a full hand. So I just block this and Coronet Peak, Arsenal, the Cold Snap. Yeah. Note that I do opt to not block with the Frost Axe, just in case we get the second cycle and I need to pivot to that game plan. I just want to make sure the Frost Axes are still in my deck. So, yeah. And our opponent pitches a blue to Coronet Peak, so again, signaling that they have enough blues in the hand. Okay, and then we draw into 3 reds. A little unfortunate, but these are some of our power cards. Like the Fighting Spirit is just, it's very, very strong. And I take a bit of a gamble here. I have a Cold Snap, and I'm gambling that I'm going to draw another blue. I pitch a blue to play the Cold Snap so that I can Waning Moon, and I'm gambling that I draw a blue. And we did, so that's really nice. And then, yeah, we Waning Moon. Again, trying to fish for information, see what our opponent's trying to do. So with this hand, this is one of those hands I'm just going to need to Arsenal a red. So my plan is to send the Fighting Spirit on my turn, Arsenal the other Fighting Spirit, and block with a Freezing Point this turn. Okay, opponent takes the full 3, so they want all their resources, so that's a little scary. But again, this axe doesn't currently have go again, so we don't block this one. It's also going to be an inefficient block anyway, because it's only coming in for 2. Yep, and that's the 3rd glint, so we played around all 3 glints, so that feels really good. Okay, next axe coming in for 3. We just block 3. If our opponent pumps it, we'll take it, or yeah, they choose to Arsenal. And we go ahead and Fighting Spirit. And here's where we start to close this life gap. Early on, we were finding like a lot of our blues, not very offensive red cards. But this Fighting Spirit is a big swing. And this is what I mean, like, opponent right now is a bit of a bind. If they're like, oh, if I just take this and my opponent has the Iyslander has a hypothermia, then they can get blown out real hard. But if they block too much of it and have like an Aether Hail or an Ice Bolt since I have Tuning up, then they're going to leak the damage on their turn. So this puts our opponent in a very, very difficult position. Okay, so opponent decides to just take 7. They're just tanking it. So they're just hoping that, it's not a hypothermia, I guess. Because with that many cards, they're probably able to play around Channeling Frigid, so yeah, I guess they just have to hope that it's not Hypothermia. And then we draw again in 10 out of 3 red hands, it's a little unfortunate. And another Fighting Spirit, so ideally, like, I would love to Arsenal Channeling Frigid into Dori, because they are very resource hungry. Like, you know, constantly swinging, they don't swing 2 axes, like suddenly cost them 4. So Channeling Frigid really good against Dori. But with a hand like this and with Arsenal already being a red, I realize I'm going to need to just give up the Channeling Frigid. I need to pitch it to swing a Fighting Spirit. Alright, and then now this axe is coming in for 5 with an on-hit go again. So if we can stop the go again, and we have the D-React for that as well, so if we can block 5 on this and then hold the D-React for any pumps they want to do, there's a chance we get to stop the go again completely. And this is a nice thing about having Tunic up and Ironhide is like I can just get like a free 2 block. Just use the Tunic and Ironhide. I haven't used any cards in my hand and block 2. Yep, so that's exactly what I do. Block 2 with the Ironhide and block an extra 3 from hand. And so that's 5. The reprise is turned on, yes, but we have a D-React. So, you know, like we are safe through a Singing Steel Blade and an Iron Song. And if opponent decides to give this go again by some other means, we still have the D-React to block the other one. So we're feeling pretty good right now. And to be honest, we don't mind going slightly lower. Like, we don't mind taking 2 damage this turn so that our Fighting Spirit gains us back alive. Okay, an opponent does play the Singing Steel Blade, so let's see what they tutor out. Okay, so they actually choose to tutor out Blade Runner, so they're playing around the D-React, which is very good of them. I mean, they have seen, obviously, that we're running a bunch of D-Reacts, so very smart of them to, like, play around it and just get a reliable source of go again instead of just trying to pump and just get +4 on this thing. So we go ahead and take 1, and this axe is buffed by the singing. Cool, and then play hit and run. These hit and runs have actually been like dealing us like a lot of damage. So now this axe is coming in for, I want to say 9? +3 from the red Blade Runner, +3 from hit and run, and +1 from his own effect. So yeah, it's coming in for 9. So at this point, I'm definitely feeling validated that I didn't try and set up Frost Axes on my opponent. Because we'd be like even further behind, and you know, like we've been in a rough spot, and you definitely don't want to be in the, like, once you get to too low of a life total against Dori, it just all your decisions become really, really difficult. So yeah, feel validated. So we just block 4, take 5, and then take another 3 on the follow-up axe, which is a lot of damage. I only want to, you know, take like a couple of points of damage, but we end up taking way more. But again, we're sending a very powerful red attack. I think, so very, very minor optimization here. I think I should have used the Fighting Spirit in my arsenal instead of the one in my hand. Because the one in my arsenal, like, my opponent sort of has information, slight information about what it could be, because I didn't use it the previous turn. So they probably know, they can probably guess it's not a Hypothermia. Or, you know, something incredibly disruptive. Because I probably would have used it the previous turn because they came in with a lot of damage the previous turn. So if I just use the one in my arsenal and get to arsenal a fresh card, my opponent has no more information. And they're like, oh, they have no idea what that could be. So mine optimization, I should have used the attack in my arsenal instead of the one in my hand. Opponent blocks 3. And this is, like, I guess the downside of using attacks instead of arcane damage, is that your opponent's reds sort of block better, right? Compared to if you're sending arcane at them. At the same time, if that was like an ice bolt, the red, you know, they still only leak 4. Like, they pitch the red to block, they leak 4. If I send a Fighting Spirit, they block with the red, they leak 4. So, you know, in a sense, it sort of balances itself out, because the damaging spells, the attacks just come in for more than, like, the arcane spells. Yeah, because we don't currently have, like, a 3-cost, like, just a vanilla arcane damage thing, like the upgrade to Ice Bolt. Not upgrade, like the higher costed Ice Bolt or higher costed Voltic Bolt. So we don't have the 3 for 6 kind of thing. Which, if we ever get that, there might be an argument to sort of cut the attacks and play those. Okay, and then we say no blocks. Again, this is a rule of, like, you know, it's just a non-buffed non-buffed axe. You don't want to turn on the reprise. And I also have Oasis Respite, so that's also perfect. So I say no block on that. They go and overpower it. It goes up to 6. then we respite. Pity we don't have Tunic Up, we used it for the Ironhide. But, you know, it's fine. We basically use 2 cards to block 5 there, which is like using a 2 block and a 3 block, so, you know, it's still fine. Okay, and then now we have a decision to Arsenal, Channel League Frigid, or Polar Blast, and because of how low the life totals are, and also that I'm about to send 7 at my opponent, I opt to Arsenal the more aggressive card, which is a Polar Blast, rather than a Channel League Frigid. Because I expect that my opponent is going to give me at least 1, probably 2 cards from this, in which case I'm going to be able to send Arcane at them, and a Channel League Frigid I value as going to be less useful. If I had Tunic Up, I probably would have just Arsenal Channel instead, so I can still do Channel and Moon. But I don't, so I make the call as Arsenal Polar Blast. Okay, so opponent just blocks 3, so yeah, playing very aggressively. And so now they are like well within Strider's range, and they know this. So, you know, here's where we start to feel a little comfortable. But we draw into 4 blues, obviously not what you want to draw. When you're trying to, like, you know, push lethal at this point. But again, Polar Blast maybe bails us out. Let's see what we draw. Now we draw a Cold Snap. So looking at this, it's the decision to the Arsenal decision is either Cold Snap or Hypothermia, and then the Frost Text and Ice Veins, those would be blocking cards. So just trying to, yeah, I'm gonna see what my opponent does before I make that decision. This is a bit of a tough decision, to be honest. Cold Snap's like more aggressive, Hypothermia is more defensive. And it depends how low I get down on my opponent's turn here. If I get down too low, I probably want to Arsenal the Cold Snap instead, because I want to make sure I kill my opponent. Because Hypothermia won't stop them from like going tall with an Overpower or something. Okay, and then my opponent takes 3 on the Waning Moon, so they're at 4. So that is definitely very bold by them. Oh, actually, so now looking at this, another play that we have is actually just send the blue Ice Vein at our opponent, which will just take 1 blue out of them, but it lets us activate our Amulet of Ice, which is a very important resource that we have just like chilling out there, and we want to make sure we use it. When you end the game, and like say you lose the game with like Amulet of Ice or like Chill Charges still up, it feels really, really bad. So, and given my opponent went down to 4, now that line, you know, has really opened up for us that we can just send the blue Ice Vein on our opponent and trigger the Amulet. Okay, so I play Outland Skirmish and Spoils of War, so the Axe will have go again. Okay, and then they swing with it. This is coming for 7. But they have no floating, so the only possible pump they can have is Iron Song Response, which, you know, if I don't block, it won't pump, and even if I do block 3, then only pumps it to... I mean, then it's still... I only leak 7 over, and I'll still have 1 life left. So I can just go ahead and say no blocks on this. If my opponent moves to Arsenal, I get to do Blue Ice Vein and Waning Moon on my turn. If they swing the other axe, then I can just block 3. But swinging the other axe is like, unless they're pitching a blue, like if they pitch a red to swing the other axe, they die to any 5 damage arcane spell. So I'm expecting them to just Arsenal, in which case I can be more aggressive with the Ice Vein plus Waning Moon play. Okay, but they do actually swing the other axe. So they decide they're just gonna make me have it. They're leaving themselves completely open at 5 life. If I have the 5 damage arcane spell, they die. But I don't, so I just go and block 3 on that, which is still fine. We still get to do Blue Ice Vein. Also remember, we still do have like 3 armor left like on the board, Incarnate Peak and Tunic. So yeah. Okay, so opponent pitches a blue, which is what we expected, but we get to Amulet. So then now they're on a 2-card hand, and we still have Striders up, so it's gonna be incredibly difficult for them. Alright, so first things first, we do the Cold Snap on the layer step before they can do any further reactions. And we Waning Moon, because again, like we're fishing for information here. And finally, we start to see our red Ice Veins, which is great. Okay, so opponent blocks 2, so they have none float and they take 1, and they have a frostbite, so I don't need to worry about any pump. But I don't need to worry about Iron Song response, so I know this Axe is only coming for 2, that's all my opponent is doing this turn. So I can just go ahead and block with like one of my red Ice Veins, and we drew 2 at the same time, and just send the red on my turn. I don't even need to like Striders yet. Infused with the Ice Bolt, since I have Tunic up, this means I'm sending another 6 on my opponent's turn, not counting whatever I Striders out. So this is kind of like closing out the game, and yeah, my opponent just concedes here. With just 1 blue and 3 reds, yeah, there's no way they're surviving a minimum of 11 damage that I'm dealing. Not counting Striders, which, you know, we drew up, and, you know, I have a red Hail and a red Ice Vein in that, so. Yeah, so that was the game. Access Dori, very interesting matchup. Honestly, it's a very fun matchup because, like, on both sides, you know, both players are trying to... Like, both players are being asked pretty tough questions, right? Like, it's like Dori is obviously always asking you, like, oh, what do you want to play around? Which attack react, you know, what reprise effect? And Iyslander similarly, like, which of my Arsenal disruptive cards do you want to play around to the Dori? So it's a pretty fun matchup. And yeah, but obviously stuff like Hypothermia just completely blows the Dorinthea out. I do think it's a bit tougher for the Dori than it is for the Iyslander, especially when I'm packing like so many D-Reacts and Oasis Respites and stuff. So yeah, that was the game. Thank you for watching and hope you enjoyed it.